Welcome to episode 59, Retreating. Now, and the title may be a little confusing, but hopefully it'll be made clear over the course of our recording.
Join us as we discuss what it's like to go on a retreat with our fellow witchy siblings and enjoy time away from the mundane world and immerse ourselves in the sacred.
Stay tuned. Welcome to the Witchy Wit podcast, where we look at life through a witchy lens. I'm Kimberlyn.
I'm Leilani.
At Witchy Wit, we explore current events,
Ideas,
music and books,
and experiences in ways that recognize energy and life in everybody and everything.
We are both real witches.
And we bring two real perspectives through the lens of our different ages,
Races,
and backgrounds.
with a healthy skepticism for what we have been told is true. Our conversations are raw, candid, and vulnerable.
Join us as we cast a spell to uncover what we each know is true in our intuitive, witchy selves.
Well, normally we would have a check-in, but
I'm still super scrambled after going on our retreat last weekend, so...
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
So as we were thinking about doing a check-in, we thought, well, we don't really have one. Mm-hmm. And the beauty of this episode is that this is literally right after our first group retreat in 4 years.
I can't even...
Exactly. That's exactly right. And that's not to say we'll actually talk about something else. That's actually not... these are not the only retreats that we have, and we have done something else, but it's a little bit different. So maybe we can talk about that.
Yeah, that's something I'm really excited for this episode, is that you and I both have gone to various styles of retreats, various length, various groups, some with only women, others with mixed. So I just think it's really exciting that we'll get to share, especially for those who haven't been on retreats. Or who are looking to go. For me, it's not a one-size-fits-all. There's lots of different options depending on what people are looking for.
Totally. So, but we're going to talk about ours. Yay! So let's actually, to get started, what's the point of a retreat? Why does one do a retreat? You want to get us started on that?
So my number one reason for going on retreat is the depth of practice. So for me, especially as somebody who has a lot going on, I have a lot of pots that I'm stirring, cauldrons that I'm stirring. It's nice. Going on retreat is nice for me because it really encourages me to unplug. So, for example, if we go to our ritual, where we do ritual normally about once a month, I kind of unplug, but there are times where I'm still thinking about the other things that I have to do. Okay, so after this, I'm going to go home and I have to get this ready for tomorrow. And, don't forget to call this person and, things like that. But the longer the retreat is, normally the more I am able to unplug. So weekend retreats are good. Week-long retreats are even better.
Well, so I'm hearing you say two things. It sounds like the ability to step away from the mundane world is an important part, and we'll actually come back. I'd like to talk more about that. But then when you first started, you said something about deeper work. Do you want to? Yes. Yeah, you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, thanks for bringing me back to that. So the unplugging allows me to then be open to then doing the deeper work.
Gotcha.
Because if I'm at one of our rituals where I'm going home that night and I'm thinking all those things, sometimes I can be my own worst enemy in keeping myself from really surrendering to the process of ritual. So by unplugging, that allows me to sink even deeper into the work and to do deeper work.
That makes sense. That makes sense to me. I mean, it's a combination of things. I think for me, using the analogy of, the contrast of our regular monthly meeting, when we do a retreat, first of all, I get in the car to go to the retreat, and to get to our monthly meeting, it's 5 minutes for me. It's like, so, before I even start thinking about something, I'm there. For our retreats, they're anywhere from a half hour to 4 hours long for one retreat. woofda. Yeah, but and when I get in the car, I'm like literally dropping the veils like Inanna going into the underworld. I'm literally dropping all the accretions of the outside world as I'm going. So when I'm there, I'm already starting to drop, you know, and so getting away from the mundane world is an important part for me, and one of the parts that I so love. And then it sounds, and this is kind of bouncing off what you said, it sounds like what I feel for me is, again, the time. So on our monthly meeting, we're there maybe anywhere between 2 to maybe 4 hours, right?
Yeah.
But for a retreat, I mean, you know, our first night is the equivalent of our monthly meeting. So, and then we have another full day, and you know, and nights where we're together and at night, like a great witchy sleepover, you know, and then another, you know, often another day at least. We do a full weekend. So it's the time too, and that allows me to really drop, because I start in the car, and then, you know, the way we usually organize these things, there's like an opening ritual, and that just kind of starts to tease us. So actually, we've been teased usually online a little bit beforehand, and then we get further. Okay, this is where we're going. This is where we're going, and we're surrounded by women who are going through the same process. Or similar processes, right? And that adds to the energy. At least that's the way I feel. And then there's fabulous food. We won't even talk about the food yet. But the next morning just just intensifies. Each passing hour intensifies the experience.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. And that was it. So let's.
Can I talk about
Sure.
something that you touched on? The fact that we're spending, whenever I'm on a retreat, whether it be a weekend or a week or even longer than a week, that shared time really, to me, creates a connection. And so not only am I deepening my spiritual practice with the ritualistic and the witchy work that I'm doing, I'm also strengthening the bonds to these people that I care so much about.
Right.
These people that I trust spiritually in my life, oftentimes to guide me in ritual, and to plan ritual, and to aspect. If you don't know what that is, check out our aspecting episode. But that deepening really occurs through sharing meals, cooking together, you know, and even in like the most, like the least sexy time of like, just like hanging out, waiting for something,
right?
You know, or just chilling on, like, you know, like we did, like sitting on the side of a creek,
yeah,
just talking,
or passing each other with your toothbrushes.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
That very mundane, but also charged, because we're in ritual space from the time we start, and we're with a bunch of witchy women, and that, like, you know, right there ramps up the energy. Yeah. And I love the idea that you mentioned of the shared connection. I think one of the things that I have found, and you've touched on this, is that it's not in the things that are being planned, but it's in the things that happen while we're waiting for the things that are, like, you know, the meals or whatever, that connection is I don't even want to say forged. The connection's already forged, but the connection is supported and maintained and repaired in some cases, and restored, and that's just as important for me. And one of the things I loved about this past retreat, this past weekend, is that we had so much free time scheduled. And so I should say, you know, truth in advertising, Leilani was one of the facilitators for the ritual, so she planned a lot of it. She contributed to a lot of the planning.
We specifically, thank you. We specifically set aside a 3-hour, there was more, but we specifically set aside, I wanted a large, unbroken chunk of free time.
Yeah. That let's go ahead and go there. That we used to go and sit by a creek and play in the water.
And look at leeches. Freshwater leeches, which I said is my new craft name. Freshwater leeches.
That's what we had an episode on craft names, didn't we?
Yeah.
Freshwater leeches. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And hammocks. I explored a hammock. It was really, really nice. And I mean, just sitting on the dock of the creek or whatever. Anyway, so all of that was just chatting and talking and sometimes not talking, and oh my gosh, it was just wondrous.
And that, like, there was an owl hooting. We saw like some bird of prey flying over.
Cardinal songs. Remember, we were charting the cardinals,
we figured out
talking to each other. And
my sister and I went for a walk, and we with somebody else too, and we were looking at the canyon, the canyon wall, and like looking at the caves, and that was lovely.
Yeah, it was incredible. It was a beautiful location. Well done, you.
Yes.
and we had time to explore. It's often we could be in a holiday. Well, we will be at another time. We'll be in a holiday Inn, but we could be anywhere because everything is so programmed that. We just kind of look out of a window, or when we go down to something like a creek, it's a part of the thing, and so it's organized and facilitated, etc. So the opportunity to just go and have our own experience was invaluable.
I do want to add that the other priestess and I, when we found the location for this retreat, we wanted to make sure that it was set in as naturey as possible. And we wanted
naturey. I love that term.
And we wanted as many of the elements as possible there.
Oh, right.
So, like, I was looking for, like, does it have a fire pit that is accessible that we can sit around? Large fire pit. Does it have water? And if we don't have something on the property, like, are we in view of water? Even, like, if we could look out and see, like, a lake. Or there was one that I was like, this is really good, but it only has a pool. That's still water.
It's still water.
Still counts.
It still counts. It still counts. But this is much better. Yeah. Even if it had been a pool with like a lot of shrubbery or something. But this was lovely. It was really lovely, and it was just what I needed because it was the end of a really really long week. And one of the things that I find has happened in the past is it's kind of unfortunate on a certain level, but really great on another level. Often these retreats occur at the end of a really busy week for me. And some of it is that it's really busy because I know I'm going to be away for the weekend, so I'm cramming other things in, etc. But they're perfect because as I start to, I love to drive, and so driving for me is therapeutic. So as I start to go to the retreat, I can start dropping the world around me, and that becomes an important part of it. Yeah, and it really was just what I needed. And so let's talk. We're talking specifically about ours, but let's kind of go take a step back and just talk about other retreats in general. So there's a full spectrum, right? And our retreats tend to have a specific focus. So I don't know how much you care to talk about the focus of the retreat that we just did.
I think it's okay to say. So this retreat, so like you mentioned, normally in our group we pick a theme, and so the theme we picked this time was the elements, and so we spent the weekend diving into earth, air, fire, and water. Yeah. So. But we have gone, both you and I together, and not necessarily together, but we've both been there, and we've gone to other retreats where it might be, the focus might be a goddess for that week, and there are activities scheduled around that, and rituals scheduled around that. Can you talk specifically about the one that we went at the ocean?
Sure. Ours?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Are you the Yemaya?
Yeah.
Okay. So this was you want me to say it? You just want me to talk about it?
Well, I just like the idea of sharing, like, sometimes we travel to like we went to that location specifically for that.
Oh, gotcha.
We didn't do that one like in the mountains.
Yes, exactly. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's right. So one of the retreats that you've heard us talk about. Well, you may not have known that it was a retreat.
That's
right?
true. Yeah.
But we've talked about this on a number of different occasions.
Especially the bad witch.
When witch goes bad.
Yeah.
And also with aspecting.
Also, okay. It was a formative experience. Okay.
That we still remember vividly. So so there was which you also facilitated. You also planned. So there's something to be said there. I'm not sure what, but we had a retreat that was devoted to Yemaya. So this is a goddess that's associated with oceans, and our retreat was in Freeport. What was it? Freeport. So it was this. First of all, so we were in this beach house, not right on the beach, but very, very, very close, and a lot of our activities took place on the beach. Particularly our big ritual Saturday night, where I was aspecting Yemaya, and Yemaya took over. I didn't negotiate well, I'll put it that way, or I negotiated and then said, "What the hell?"
Right. That does happen.
So that was the one where I go where Yemaya took my body out into the ocean. And fortunately, she was brought back a number of times. But that was one where the theme, I don't know if it. Well, we had just mentioned, we could have had it somewhere else, but the fact that Yemaya is associated with oceans, and we were on the Gulf Coast, that to me is such an integral part of it, and to me made the ritual. And I love the ocean anyway, so. I think that's the part that we hadn't taken into account. That Kimberlyn is mesmerized by the ocean. So we had done our we'll talk about this. Well, let's talk about it now, but we might have to cut it. I had gotten mesmerized. I had made my negotiation. I can't even remember what percentage it was going to be. And then I got out there, and there was the moon on the ocean. I lost my fucking head.
I mean...
And Yemaya said, well, let me take over.
Can you blame... I can't blame you.
Yeah, I forgot. And that's one of those things where great planning creates unpredictable results.
Right?
Wow. Because if we had done it someplace where there was a pool, that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
It was the ocean. Damn,
that
girl.
makes so much sense now.
Wow. Okay.
With
some insight.
Yeah. And if you're looking for more backstory on that... 2 episodes which might be helpful is the aspecting episode and the which shit goes bad episode.
Yeah, and that tells you a little bit about what happened. Okay. Anyway, so the point is that we have a theme, and then it's up to the facilitators to decide how they're... Well, first of all, they come up with the theme, and then they decide how they're going to implement that for our group. And other groups do things differently. But I really love ours because we can, as you mentioned earlier, we can do some deep work. We can dive deeply into it because we're focused and focused for a period of time away from the real world, surrounded by some fucking ass fabulous witchy women.
Yes.
And that creates this container that is just a wonderful opportunity for some intense personal work, or intense work, not necessarily personal, but it could be. We've
also had retreats in our group around things like death and shadow work.
Oh, yes.
And fairy tales.
I cried that whole weekend. The shadow work, shadow week.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't cry, but I felt like pieces of myself were being ripped out. So, and we can do that at a retreat, and you can't do that in ritual because like we literally have to get in our cars and go home, like with our guts hanging out, and intestines dragging behind our cars.
The first retreat that I ever planned, I think, was the Avalon retreat. And so that one, I really like. This is the English teacher in me speaking, because we read a book. We read Avalon Within, right, yes. And I can't remember who the author is, but it's called Avalon Within. And then we planned all of the rituals around that work. Yes. And so I liked that because it was like this homework beforehand where I was like reading and taking notes. And then I came to the retreat with my book.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, and that's the one. Didn't we have something like 5 priestesses?
Oh, it was so good. I had a spreadsheet. This is how in it I was with planning this retreat. Yeah. I had a spreadsheet for each of the goddesses that we were working with in Avalon Within. And then I used the same formula for each of the goddesses.
Right.
But I like plugged in each of their individual. Oh my gosh, I had like amazing.
I remember that. I love that because it's symmetrical. You know, we're not doing one thing for this goddess and another, where they're kind of bouncing off of each other, and when you do it with one goddess, it highlights what you did with a different one. Yes. So well done, you. Look at you with the planning.
Thank you. I do love planning.
Yes,
it's very fun for me.
It's right. Well, and you do it well. So anyway, so we've done shadow, we've done death. We mentioned Yemaya, fairy tales. And the one I do want to mention is this was easily 10, maybe even 15 years ago. We, my co-facilitator and I thought that a wonderful theme for women to work through is motherhood, or the mother, the concept, the notion of the mother. And so we planned a retreat around the mother. Well, apparently, I don't know for a fact, but it seemed that was so fraught that I don't even know how many. I think we might have had like maybe 4 women, and we were 2 of them. Like no one wanted to come to that one. It was I guess it was just, it brought up too much stuff.
Super triggering. That's it. And maybe people felt like we'd bring all this stuff up and the retreat wasn't long enough to work through it, or it was too long and they didn't want to work through it. I'm not quite sure, but I just remember that was our lowest attended retreat. The mother. I think now that I think we're stronger and healthier and we've done some work, I think we should bring that one back and just see. Well, that's an idea.
I like how you put that.
I'm like, how about we do crone? I had maiden retreat.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. I lost my mind just for a moment. It's back now. But thank you for saying it that way. That helped me to really put this into perspective. I appreciate that. Yeah. That was our poorest attended retreat, and yeah.
Another retreat that we've done, our group, at one point in time, we decided we wanted to strengthen leadership skills in the group, so we created a leadership retreat. And so we retreated away and worked on communication skills and conflict resolution and and then also added spiritual components to it as well. But that retreat to me had more content in a linear way.
Yes. But teamwork but
then we tied it into the spiritual as well.
Of course. Because I don't know if we can untie it from the spiritual, but yeah, exactly. So that's another type of retreat that we have. And then the one that we continued through the pandemic in various guises, we do a retreat as the organizers, the priestesses of our group. The women who are responsible for organizing our retreats and things like that get together every year, because we have to plan I said retreats, I meant rituals. We have to plan the rituals for the upcoming year and do a lot, some linear work, looking back on the previous year, figuring out what went well and what we can grow upon. And so we do that even during the pandemic. We did that even though a couple of times it was on Zoom, which was tormenting. But yeah, but we soldiered on. Yeah. So because we had to. But yeah, that's another type of retreat. That's a little bit more like you say, linear, where it's a lot more planning, and then we try to. This is one where so many of the women who are priestess or who are facilitating our rituals, our time together is often very linear. We're planning things, or we're in charge and we're running around, making sure there's enough paper or whatever. And so this is our opportunity to reconnect and recharge, and that's important.
It is really important, and I felt the loss of that with the lack of connection when we were doing it over Zoom.
Oh yeah, totally.
Well, so it sounds like when we go on retreat, everything works perfectly and there's never any issues. So we can just end our episode. Not really. So,
yeah.
So being in retreat for all of those strengths, and maybe this is a strength, but that it definitely for me brings up my edges.
Yeah. Well, yes, because human interaction basically it's just one big trigger.
Right.
It's just one big trigger.
Humans are triggering.
Humans are triggering, right? And so we develop over the course of the year, we develop like mechanisms to make things work more efficiently and effectively, etc. And then we go to a retreat where we're like up under each other 24/7.
Right. Because like I can like play nice and put on a happy face for X amount of time, but the longer I spend, the less I'm able to do that.
Exactly. So
for better or worse.
Yeah. And retreats bring up a lot of that. And you know, some of the very things that we relish, that closeness, the connection, the time together, the ability to kind of just drop the business and just be ourselves. Sometimes, no, we realize that people don't really want us to be ourselves.
I know, I'm like, ooh, be myself. That's triggering. To myself.
It's a one big ass trigger, right? So what has happened is that over the years we've developed we had developed and maybe are still developing some maybe not so healthy ways of handling that. And I just remember one retreat, and I'm trying to remember where. Oh, I can't. The one that we have in Bastrop. I remember one retreat where I think, let's say that there were 15 women there. 10 of those women brought bags upon bags of candy and chocolate and chips, and they like ripped the bags open and left them on the counter. And I remember judging that, and then I remember like 15 minutes later, like kind of grazing my way across, like chocolate smeared all over my face and down the front of my chest, and just going back to that trough again and again and again, because I was using it to kind of numb myself. I was using it to not, to kind of keep the triggers from the reactions to the triggers instead of working my way through them.
Well, I think you said that really well, and we talked in the very first part of this conversation about how retreat offers us the opportunity to go deeper, to drop deeper, to explore deeper because of the space and the time. Well, that comes with a price. Like, that's scary.
That's frightening. Totally frightening. Yes,
especially if it's like
the mother retreat.
I was actually thinking death, but that mother's scarier.
Yes. Yeah.
So then when I look at this, you and I brainstormed some things. When I look at this, the majority of these things that have been issues on retreats, when I look at them, I think they're ways of distracting and numbing, whether that be technology use, or sweets, like unhealthy foods, which I do want to say I do think have like a place, but like, so my judgment is not necessarily on that food, but like the type of food that people are bringing, like the candy and stuff like that. It just helps.
And the multitudes.
Yeah.
No, let me take that back. Let me not put the blame on them. I could put some blame on them. But anyway, they had that up there. They didn't tie me to the counter and, like shove the candy down my throat. Those chips didn't fly into my mouth. So yes, maybe the choices could have been a little bit better, but it was my choice to not delve to maybe not delve deeply into whatever the theme was, or maybe not work through some of the places where my rough edges rubbed up against someone else's. But yeah, definitely numbing. Yeah,
I mean, I do that. I catch myself diving into the chocolates at work, and I'm like, oh, it's because I'm feeling this, So being a retreat just like intensifies that.
It totally intensifies that. So we actually came up with a couple of rules around that. And one, that's where we developed our alcohol agreements, that we were going to, to really allow ourselves to function in our authenticity. That we were going to make sure that we didn't have any of those things, those numbing agents, as a part of any of our official gatherings, because the tendency is to, or there's the potential there for someone to take that route instead of doing the deep work, instead of diving in and feeling the feels and feeling the the crap and then working through the crap.
And I want to come back to this in just a moment, because I want to talk about the different types of gatherings.
Oh, that we've been to. Yes.
Because that's like that's not to say that there's not a time for plowing through a bag of sweet treats, or enjoying some alcoholic drinks or other sort of consciousness shifting things with people that I love doing deep magical work. It just depends on the intent of the retreat.
That makes sense, yes.
And for us, we were asking for authenticity in a way where it was not augmented by substances, whether that be sugar, cell phones, alcohol, mushrooms, like whatever it is. Like we were asking to just show up as ourselves in that way.
Nicely put. Thank you. Yeah. So I'm going to take a step back even further.
Okay.
We started to say we were talking a lot about our organization, but some of the other retreats that we've gone to. Yeah. So one that you had been going to for a while, and then I started going to later, is our one of our favorites out in California, and that's a huge mixed group. So you know, male, female, whatever else. And that usually has a theme. That's a full week, and it's very it's very well organized. They've been doing it for 25 years, something like that. And you choose a specific. There's at least 4 or 5 paths that are being offered by different pairs of teachers, and you choose your path, and you're in that path for every day for the 5 days or whatever, something like that. And that is. Really, I love that one. That's in the Mendocino Woodlands, and it's just a beautiful location, and I really do like the work that we do there. It's a haul. It's California, so you've got to prepare and plan and stuff.
I love it. I love it for a lot of reasons. One is the length of it allows me to really, the length and the location allow me to really sink into my magical work in a way that I don't get other places. There literally is no cell phone reception.
Yeah, I know, it's a beautiful thing.
Like
no electricity.
People get lost in the woods and they can't call for help. Like that's how.
Yeah.
Like there is no cell phone reception. Like whether you like it or not, whether you're lost or not. I also love that there are men are allowed. There's queer people, trans people, non-binary. Like there's just it's so diverse.
It's wonderfully diverse.
And that's very different. And it's just in a different way from my home circle. So I really like going into that place and having a different type of magical experience.
Exactly. And different types of energy, different types of group energy, but then all the individual energies. And over the course of the week, you can spend a lot of time with a bunch of different people that I would normally not have the ability to interact with. And I find that is it's insightful but fun. I mean, it's not just, okay, I'm learning about these people, but I'm having a good time and enjoying that. Another is that one that I don't think pandemic, but that our local, there's a Texas women only retreat. It's a camp or festival or whatever. That's usually about 3 or 4 days, wouldn't you say? And there's 2 iterations. One in the fall is very family friendly. It's women, their daughters. It's open to young women, to maidens, and
anyone who's
nursing babies. Yeah, and that I love that one because with having the maidens around, the energy, them running around and all that kind of stuff. The energy is just so bright and so inspiring. And that's another. That one's a little more relaxed in as much as I don't think they ever have like a real theme, or they do have themes. Okay.
And they have some offerings, but they're very the offerings are very loose.
Okay, because I know a lot of times their offerings are by the participants, but they'll have like a facilitation team and something like that.
It seems like they do, but I think that this conversation that you and I are having reflects how loose it is.
Yes, it is.
Like they do have like the opening ritual.
Yeah, I do remember that,
and some other things that occur, like talent shows and stuff. But like most of the meals are not shared. There's really not. It's just really loose.
Okay, gotcha.
But I really liked going to that, especially whenever with my family, because like as the maidens in my family were growing, I thought it was a really lovely environment to raise them in, especially with like loving their physical bodies, and connecting with other maidens in that way. That was really empowering for them.
Oh, it's so beautiful to see. It was just, just seeing this generation kind of getting a a little, head start in terms of loving themselves and acceptance and tolerance and that sort of thing. That was really beautiful to see. Another one that we have here in Texas is we're trying not to say names, but this one is it's a large group. They own their own property in the hill country, I think. And I mean, this one I've never been. I keep saying I want to go, and I know you have not been either. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But this one to me is kind of like a pagan Renaissance fair. I mean, I think their big thing is in the spring. It's usually April, I think. And it's a little under a week. I mean, maybe it's about 5 days long. But they also, the beauty of it is because they own their own property. Most of us lease or rent or whatever. They own their own property. They often have smaller things where people are going in and doing some land management and things like that. So that's, which I think is huge, the fact that they own their own place. But that, if you kind of picture a Renaissance fair that's heavily pagan, which Renaissance fairs tend to be anyway, right?
So a Renaissance fair?
Yeah, a Renaissance fair, but with an opening ritual.
There we go. Got it. Now I know. Now that makes sense.
That's the difference. And a lot of people, because I think about it. They're all running around with war hammers and kilts and stuff. Those are the guys. Sorry. And so it's, just picture Renaissance fair. But that's a huge one that I keep saying I'm going to go to, and that's where you can get the best. You can get mead. Oh, there was a friend of a woman who used to belong to our circle, and when I knew she was going, I'd just give her like $200 and say, "Just bring it back, baby." So there you go.
See, and so that also shows like alcohol is a part of that. Mm-hmm, so it's just different retreats with different intentions and different. Oh my gosh, yes. Like guideposts.
Yes, and a lot more they had like superb vending. So if you ever need to stock up on your witchy accoutrement, that's where you want to go. So if you need that, hook up with us through social media, and I can give you more information about that group. But
so we just talked a lot about like how going to retreat is pretty awesome. There are some edges but I think for me that's part of the magical work, right?
I agree.
Part of the reason why I'm doing this work is I want to find those edges and work on that. Otherwise, I don't know. I guess I'd sit on my couch and watch Netflix all day. There's really not much edging there.
Yeah. Well, it depends on what you watch too.
That's true.
Okay,
that's true. Okay. But maybe let's chat about leaving retreat.
Yes.
Because that in itself is a whole thing.
It's a whole thing because, so just as I said, when I get in the car, I start dropping. We spend the whole weekend in sacred space doing witchy things, like, being an element. I mean, like feeling feels and stuff like that. And so when it's time to leave, we've got to like pull ourselves, up so that we can now function in the real world again. And this again is different from coming out of ritual where you've only been in it for a couple of hours. We've been in it for anywhere like 48 hours or whatever, 36 to 48 hours. So, we have a closing ritual. And in fact, may I just say this one thing at the end of our closing ritual, this past weekend, I looked around because I think I said something. I looked around and everyone was kind of looking loopy.
Yeah.
They're like, woo,
like swaying a little bit.
Yeah. And I said, are we all ready to go home?
I think you asked, is everybody able to drive?
Because I didn't get it. I mean, then they kind of snapped into yes,
we
are.
I think that question snapped people into it.
Okay.
That was my thought. Is that in that moment, I was looking and I was like, I don't think. Oh, there we go. Okay. Now we are. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. But that's a big thing coming out of ritual after you've spent all of this time, being between the veils and between the worlds. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So would you care to talk a little bit about that?
Don't chant and drive.
Yo, you mean the chants that we've been singing all week? Don't do that. Yeah,
don't do that.
Oh,
because
whoops.
Well, I invite you to consider not doing that because for me and from others, from what I hear, if we start chanting and singing what we've been singing, like that can snap us back into that.
Okay. Well, maybe just. That might explain some things. Alrighty then, thank you. Don't chant and drive. Okay. Friends don't let friends chant and drive.
Right. Witches don't let other witches chant and drive.
Oh, good.
Because for me, even after our monthly rituals, there's this road that I drive on between where we have our rituals and then the highway that takes me to my house. And I swear, sometimes I will hit those speed bumps going so fast.
Yes.
Because am out of it.
Yes, yeah. Like, whoa! But does the speed bump help you get back into
Yes, it literally jolts me back to reality. So,
that's
so
good.
I go on, because there's 2 paths that I can take, and if I take the path with the speed bumps, that just helps me. So I always take the road with the speed bumps to get to the highway.
Okay.
Because if I'm not, then the speed bumps will get me.
We'll get you there. And by virtue of knowing that, that's also probably a little bit of
Yes.
a marker, so
Yes.
that helps you. Wow,
Yeah.
okay. But then one of the things, and we do, and I mentioned the closing ritual, we try to do a grounding a little bit after that. But when we used to go out west towards, whatever that, Garner?
Oh.
Yeah, that whole area,
Garner State Point.
State Park.
Garner State Park and Los Maples.
And Los Maples, yeah. That we, for a number of years, we were doing various places, not always the same place, but various places up there. We would come back, and there was this favorite place. I'm going to say the name, because they're close now.
They're close.
I'm so sorry. But there was this place that we would stop on the way back to have lunch, and it was Bill and Rosa's Steakhouse, like
in D'Hanis,
Texas.
D'Hanis.
So now we're coming out. This is Sunday, like late
lunchish.
Yeah, lunchish, and so people are getting off from church and going to Bill and Rosa's.
This tiny little hole in the wall.
Oh no, it's actually pretty big.
Well, yeah, I mean, but it was definitely had hole in the wall energy, like license plates on the walls, and
totally,
unfinished wood.
Mm-hmm. But they had a singer.
They did.
They had live music on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
Yes, they did.
Like you do in D'Hanis.
Yes, I bought a CD. I can't remember his name.
You did. I remember when you bought his CD.
Because we loved his music.
We love his music.
We would all sing along. He always sang King of the Road. And, some other personal favorites that we'd all sing along. So I picture this, if you will. Small town Texas. The majority of the people there are coming from church. Good comfort food. I can't remember what it was. Was there stuff there for vegetarians?
Not really.
Okay.
But that's okay, because I wasn't there for the food.
Okay, good. I think they had creamed corn or something.
I think I did. I remember having like a bowl of creamed corn and maybe some like
some
okra.
bread. Okay, I forgot about that. Yeah. So not the most innovative menu, but comfort food, and picture a bunch of tie-dyed witches. Who are coming down from their retreat.
We're basically feral, emerging from the woods with like sticks in our hair,
dancing at the place. We have like a whole long table to ourselves, and there's like a little dance floor. Didn't we dance?
I don't think there was a dance floor, but I do remember that we danced.
We danced anyway.
There may or may not have been a dance floor.
Okay, but I do remember
we
us dancing.
did get up and dance,
and we sang a lot. We sang along because these were old country western songs or old songs.
Do you remember there was a sign that said no spurs on the table?
Yes, I took a picture of that. I had that picture for a long time. Yeah, so if this is that kind of place, so just picture the kind of, I don't know, maybe cultural dissonance that might be reflected there. But I didn't feel, I don't know. Maybe, okay. So here's the thing. I wouldn't know because this is a part of our grounding. Because we're not grounded yet. So that's why we're here eating cream corn and stuff. So maybe people were staring at us and
they took our money.
They took our money.
And they fed us and they didn't kick us out.
They didn't kick us out. We sang other people were singing too.
I'm sure we were a spectacle.
I know we were a spectacle.
But I hope in a lovely way.
I hope so.
That there's Fred and Irma.
Yes.
Still talk about, you remember when we went,
and them girls with the sticks in the hair.
When we was in D'Hanis and we went to Bill and Rosa's, and do you remember what they were do? You remember what they were dancing? They might as well have had spurs on their feet.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it provided, like you say, a little bit of something to kind of spice up their Sunday. It only happened once a year, so
right.
but it was a wonderful opportunity for us to kind of leave, like you say, leave the woods behind and start coming back to ourselves. Mm-hmm. And quite frankly, there was something that was really good because I'd order it to go. I'd eat my meal and then I'd order whatever it was to go. Mm-hmm. I can't remember what it was, but it was phenomenal. So sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. And then there's the whole, for me, I find when I've done a lot of work that it doesn't hit me. It often doesn't hit me that weekend. Like, for example, we're talking about it today. This is 4 days later. I still haven't, because I came back, I jumped in, I had a show, I had all this other stuff. So I still haven't processed. It comes back to me in dribs and drabs. And then, maybe by a month from now, I can really articulate what it was like for me. How about with you?
I'm the same way. It's like having your program updating in the background on your computer. Like, my computer, like I'm running a little slower. Like my processing speed is slowed down because I'm running an update. So I've noticed that these past 4 days that I'm just processing a little bit slower. I'm also more tired, but I think that's from, it's not necessarily that I got, because I was defending my sleep like fiercely at the retreat.
Good.
Like I think I was the first one to go to bed.
I think you were
both nights.
Oh, really? Okay.
I think so. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't like, I'm the first to go to bed. Like,
and you weren't staying up to see, but
right. But I do know that I went to bed and nobody else was in. I didn't see anybody else. But so, anyways, the point is that the fatigue I don't think is necessarily from staying up late or carrying large boulders up a hill, which could be, we could have a Sisyphus retreat.
Yeah, I was going to say yes. Ooh, I like that idea. Yeah.
More people would attend than a mother retreat.
These are your choices, folks. Okay.
But I think that the fatigue comes from the spiritual and emotional work and the psychological work that I'm doing consciously and unconsciously.
Believe it or not, my experience is, I think, just the opposite. I have a lot of nervous energy. And I noticed it. I noticed it a little bit on Tuesday. But today it's really, I think because I haven't processed, I've been doing all this other stuff. And I remember doing something for the class and they were all kind of staring at me and I realized I was acting out the third movement of a symphony. And I said, okay, I told them, I said, I'm just highly caffeinated. But I really had very little caffeine that day.
Yeah, I'm highly spiritually injected with energy.
And so I find that, walking my dog this morning, certain things were coming back. And I remember looking at our trees are about to drop, the live oaks are about to drop they're in the process of dropping their leaves. This is the worst. Well, anyway, and I just remember watching a leaf detach itself and kind of float down and just following that and just thinking, okay, well, that's air and earth, right?
Oh, Yeah.
So this work is happening. And like you say, it is processing in the background. And my body is trying to do stuff with it, I think. I'm not sure. But yeah, I just find myself talking really fast, and I'm actually lower on caffeine this week than I have been the past few weeks.
Wow,
you've inspired me, by the way. I'm not caffeine free because I'm not going there. But because I thought to myself, why? Well, that's a different story for a different day. Anyway, but I think I'm kind of like not agitated, but just kind of there's a word for it, and it's escaping me, but. Excited or something.
I was thinking the feeling I'm getting in my body is I'm spiritually wound up.
Maybe that's
our listeners can't see, but I'm twisting as if I'm a key in a music box or a wind up toy. And I think that's what exhausts me is I've been supercharged over this retreat, and so then I'm intensified and I'm wound up, and then my body is okay, I'm like the monkey with the cymbals. My body is okay, I'm trying to keep up because I'm sure I'm vibrating differently.
Yes, yes. That's a good word, vibrating. I feel like that. Yeah. So this is our first retreat, with a thematic retreat since 2019.
I know we've said that so many times, especially at the retreat we talked about it, and before the retreat we were talking about it. But every time I hear it, it just smacks me. Just wow. Yeah.
We had the pandemic, right? And then this is one of those things that can't happen over Zoom. It just can't. It's for all the reasons that we've just said, right?
And because we tried and we did our best to keep it going, but man.
Yeah. No, it's hard. So as we came back into it, what were some of the things that you were confronted with?
So, I experienced it with this one, and then the leadership. We went away to do our logistical planning. And that was my first time. What I realized, that was my first time cohabitating with people that were not like family, you know, or like my closest, you know. So I found myself two things. One is I normally get hyper focused on food. And so I was really freaking out about food, and I was packing food, I was packing snacks, and then I was like crazy, like super intensely hyper focused on the food that I was bringing to share. And like, what if it goes wrong? What if I don't make it right? Like, is there a grocery store nearby that I can go get something? Could I order pizzas? You know, like I was just really like hamster wheel in my brain.
Gotcha.
And what shook me out of it was remembering I actually eat better on retreat than any other time of the year.
Oh, the food is phenomenal.
The food it's nourishing and delicious, and unless it's the meal I'm making, I don't have to make it. You know, like it's just wonderful. And when I reminded myself of that, then it cued me to say, okay, Leilani, then why am I feeling all these things? Oh, it's not actually about the food. It's actually about my nervousness about sharing space. Can I still share space with people? Am I still going to like it? Am I going to rub everyone the wrong way because of something that I've shifted like during the pandemic?
Whoa,
you know, like, am I still who I am? And am I still going to show up in a way that is like accessible and appropriate to people to be around? Like I felt somewhat feral, I guess, and strange.
Yeah.
And so I was really nervous in a different way than I ever have before. Everything turned out to be fine.
Of course it did. Yeah. Well, and I'm trying to remember your food was fabulous.
Thank you.
Your food was phenomenal. It was phenomenal, fabulous food. So well done you. Yeah. Oh yeah. No worries there.
What was it like for you coming to retreat after the hiatus?
Yeah, I think for me, the last retreat that we had was one that I was co-facilitating. So, what I found, I think the hardest part for me was before the retreat. There were certain things that people were discussing, and I just found that I couldn't let go of the world around me enough to really do what to do the work that some of the prompts that we had online beforehand asked me to do, and I think some I just didn't do. So I think the difficulty for me was getting back into the mindset, and one of the things that I like to do when we do retreats, if I can, is something I call being the beverage priestess, and that's where I can kind of forge connections with people because I'm not a nurturer by personality, and that allows me to do that. And so I found that by just thinking about that kind of, okay, maybe there was anxiety. There was probably anxiety because that's why I couldn't focus my mind enough to do those prompts. Because when I started thinking about the beverages, that's when I could feel myself just kind of quiet for a moment because, okay, this is where I can be of service. I'm going to make sure that we have juices. I'm going to make sure we have this and we're going to have that. And then I'm going to, I'm going to bring this pot and that kind of thing. And I'm going to have waters. And so I think that there was some low level anxiety that I just was not articulating to myself. And in retrospect, I think that that's something that I need to investigate because I think that happens a lot more than I think it does. And in this case, I could actually see it. I now, not when it happened, but just now in discussion with you, I can now see that was the case. And so there was anxieties, and I don't even know about what because I just realized it was anxieties. But so there is that for me. But I can't tell you what it was all about. It was probably, I live alone. So anytime I'm doing something with other people, it's a stretch. It's, kind of a growing edge for me. And so I think that was probably a part of it, just being in community with people for, 48 hours or whatever was going to be 42 hours was going to be a thing.
Mm-hmm. I love you being a beverage priestess.
No, thank you. It's fun for me. I really I love being of service.
I feel so nurtured.
Mm-hmm. Yay, I'm so glad.
I feel
That's my
so nurtured. I know I went home, and then that night I was getting everything ready for my next day at work, and I like got huffy because I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna have to get my tea ready.
I have to make my own tea.
I have to make my own tea.
Well, thank you for saying that. I really appreciate hearing that. Yeah.
One thing I do want to point out is that because we are still in a world where COVID is existing, one thing that we agreed upon as the group of people who were retreating was that we would do COVID tests.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yes.
Within 24 hours of arriving at the retreat, and of course that isn't foolproof. But we decided that it was a step that was in alignment with our agreements on taking care of ourselves. So I was really happy that everyone was really supportive of that, and it was kind of fun in a weird way. The day of the retreat, people were posting, just tested.
Yes.
I'm negative.
Yeah,
do you want to share what you said?
I wrote, yeah, I just checked mine, and I'm neither pregnant nor COVID positive or something. It reminds me, okay, maybe no one else, well, I guess they still have them. I just don't need them anymore. But the old pregnancy tests.
Oh, yeah, they for sure still have them.
Okay, that's good to know. Well, yeah, but like I said, it's no longer in my on my radar. But that's what it reminds me.
You didn't pee on your COVID test, did you?
No, I did not pee on my COVID test.
And you stick the pregnancy test up your nose.
Yeah, I know that. I recognize that there are some differences.
Okay.
But the little thing when you're looking, there a lot of them you're looking for a line or whatever.
Yeah.
So I posted. I am neither. I'm not pregnant, nor do I have COVID.
I love that. And then I love that other people responded back. Yeah. Same for me on both.
So yeah, and excuse me, and I felt that idea of, okay, this is one thing that we can all do to be mindful of each other's health and to be respectful, because there were some people who were very concerned, and this allowed them to relax and to be a part of it. So that was a great idea, by the way.
Yay.
Yeah.
I want to also point out, as somebody who has planned and facilitated rituals prior to COVID and then after, I was shocked that there was a number of times where I reached out to you and I was like, what do we do? And your response was, do whatever you did the last time you planned a retreat. And I was like, I haven't planned it. Oh yeah, wait, I have. It just felt so foreign.
It's so long ago. Yeah.
I didn't even remember that I had done it.
I remember there was something, you texted and I said, didn't you do the Yemayak, retreat? And you said, oh yeah, I did. But it just felt so, it wasn't even that. It was the before times.
It really, and it wasn't even registering that I had done it. It wasn't that I remembered it. It's just foggy. It was like non-existent. And then it was this digging myself out of trying to remember what I had done and how things work. And it just felt like such a heavy lift in my brain because it felt like it felt like trying to get a rusty wheel moving. You know, like
there's inertia, and you have to develop the momentum.
I felt like I was pushing, and I could hear the squeaking, and the rust was falling off, and like a mouse had made a nest in there, and it like scrambles away, and then I'm like, it's like, and as I push it, it just.
You're inventing the wheel. You felt like you were inventing the wheel.
It did feel that way, and I kept reminding myself, I have done this before. This is
a couple of times.
This is right. This is not new, but it felt so frickin' new.
Like it was your first rodeo.
It really did feel like it was my first rodeo again. So I know it wasn't, but like it felt like it was.
Yeah, because it's been so long.
Yeah,
and the world has changed. We have changed. I mean, we would have changed had we been having retreats all this time, anyway. But it changed in ways in which we've talked about this before, when we've thought about identity and thought about who we are and what's important to us, et cetera, et cetera. So,
even with all of that said, I still am really happy with what.
Oh my God, it was perfect. It was perfect. It was just what I needed. The bird song, the hammock, the rituals, my jars. It was wonderful.
Can we share this? One of my favorite moments of the retreat was whenever we were in the big ass ritual on Saturday night, and we were doing the energy raising, and we're singing and we're drumming and we're like getting like we're like getting really loud, and so the venue that we rented visually was separated from the neighbors, but I asked, and the neighbors are relatively close. I mean, not city close, but relatively close, but they were visually far away because the woods were so thick that like we could not see. But we know that they were there. But so anyways, we're like drumming and singing and like we're getting really, really loud. And I don't know, it's probably like 9 or 10 o'clock at night. Right. And so like the energy coned and it peaked, and then we like fell into silence. And then I don't remember exactly what he said.
I didn't hear it. I mean, I heard it, but I didn't hear that. I was unable to distinguish the words.
I'm not exactly sure what, but like one of the neighbors, I guess, was outside, and I don't know if they were like, "Woo!" or something in response to.
Yeah, well, and there was at one point. Was it that? No, it was late the next day that they were out on their off-road vehicles or whatever. Yeah. So, but that night, they were howling, and there was some singing going on too.
Yeah. Then later on, after the ritual had ended, and we were just chilling and singing by the fire and drumming, and they were singing. Yes. They also started singing, and I remember at one point in time we all got really quiet. We were trying to hear what they were singing so we could join in, and we couldn't decipher.
Yeah. Well, they might have been enjoying some of the beverages that we were not allowing ourselves.
Yes, that we were choosing to not have that weekend.
But they didn't sound very numb to me.
They sounded very free.
So it served a different purpose for them.
Yeah.
So the poem that we're going to read is from my Earth Prayers book, which I love to death. And it's by a poet called Nanao Sakaki, who is kind of a beat poet. He's Japanese, and he started a commune in Japan called the Tribe, but he was kind of they called him the walking poet because he was a wandering philosopher and didn't except for the period with the Tribe didn't sit for anywhere long, but very much an environmentalist. He traveled a great deal, came to San Francisco, met Allen Ginsberg, and
lucky.
I know. But just a really important figure in Japan. At the time, it was pretty militaristic, and so his work helped them to develop parts of their culture that they hadn't given a whole lot of attention to at all. But I mean, particularly in the 20th century. So. Anyway, so we're going to read his poem. Within a circle of 1 meter, you sit, pray, and sing.
Within a shelter of 10 meters large, you sleep well. Rain sounds a lullaby.
Within a field 100 meters large, raise rice and goats.
Within a valley 1,000 meters large, gather firewood, water, wild vegetables, and amanitas.
Within a forest 10 kilometers large, play with raccoons, hawks, poison snakes, and butterflies.
Mountainous country Shinano, 100 kilometers large, where someone lives leisurely, they say.
Within a circle 10,000 kilometers large, go to see the southern coral reef in summer, or winter drifting ices in the Sea of Okhotsk. Within a circle 10,000 kilometers large, walking somewhere on the earth.
Within a circle 100,000 kilometers large, swimming in the sea of shooting stars.
Within a circle 1,000,000 kilometers large, upon the spaced out yellow mustard blossoms, the moon in the east, the sun west.
Within a circle 10 billion kilometers large, pop far out the solar system mandala.
Within a circle 10,000 light years large, the galaxy full blooming in spring.
Within a circle 1 billion light years large, Andromeda is melting away into snowy cherry flowers.
Now, within a circle 10 billion light years large, all thoughts of time, space are burnt away. There again you sit, pray, and sing. You sit, pray, and sing.
Thank you for sitting, praying, and singing with us as we talk about going on retreat and retreating away with our community. Thank you for being a part of our community. We hope you have enjoyed the magic that has unfolded here at Witchy Wit.
It would be great if you would help make Witchy Wit possible and get access to exclusive content by donating on Patreon.
We'd love it if you join our Witchy community and enjoy shareable content on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
Would you do us a big favor and support us by rating and reviewing us wherever you get your podcasts? It's free and helps witchy folks find us.
Feel free to email us at witchywitpodcast@gmail.com. We love to hear from our community. Reach out and let us know what's brewing in your cauldron.
New episodes are released every second and fourth Friday. Follow us on your favorite podcasting platform so our episodes go right to your playlist. You can listen as you ride your broom.
Stay witchy, y'all!